Hello and welcome to another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. I'm your host, Chad Marshak. Our program today is on pulley systems, also known as cable systems. If you've ever been to a health club, you've probably used a lat pull-down machine, or if you have a home gym and you're lucky enough to have a lat pull-down machine, that's a type of a pulley and or a cable system. We're going to talk about those systems today and what you can do with them. I'm joined here by my cohort in crime, Jesse Vesna, who's a trainer here at Body Symmetry. Jesse knows a lot about physics. He's kind of the physics guru here at Body Symmetry, so he's going to kind of explain to you the physics behind pulley systems. And I think it's important for people to understand what goes on with pulley systems and how they work.
Well, what you have to understand whenever you're working with any type of machine in a gym is that if you ever get to a machine, it's probably got a system of pulleys set up inside it somewhere that's allowing you to lift a weight stack that's behind you. So if you're ever going in to use a machine, each one of these pulleys that's being used in the system is actually going to kind of distort the weight that you're lifting. So if you go up to, say, just a lat pull-down machine and you slide in on the 40-pound plate, so you're planning on lifting 40 pounds, by the time you're done going through all the pulleys in the system that's there, you're probably only going to be lifting maybe 30, 32 pounds at the most that you're actually pulling up. So the physics just, you have to be aware of that whenever you're actually starting to lift, is that it's not going to be a true weight whenever you're using most of these machines.
I hear that all the time when people say we've got a couple of different lat pull-down machines, and people that go to, say, a gym to work out, they'll say, well, the lat pull-down machine at my gym sure feels a lot heavier and or lighter than this particular one I'm using here. So I notice that wherever I go, around the country, and I'm at a hotel or at another gym, I'm using different pulley system machines, and every one of them is different slightly.
Oh, absolutely. And it depends on the size of pulleys or everything else that they're using, or the number of pulleys that are being used in the system.
Type of exercise, speed of movement, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we went with the Kaiser system is that it's air, and air is definitely different than a selectorized weight stack.
Well, air is not only different than that, just by the fact that it has only one pulley in the system, which is really going to help, but it's also going to be different just using air as opposed to using a free weight. And an example that we can use for this is free weights. Essentially what we think of as, we call pound. We think of weight, a pound as a measure of weight. A pound is actually a measure of force. And force is, the definition of force is mass times acceleration. So as the acceleration of the mass changes, the force is going to change.
Right.
So whenever you go to lift free weights, as you start to push, maybe you're doing a bench press, as you start to push up, you're accelerating, and that force is coming down harder, so it's going to change.
Right.
And then as you lower it, the force is going to change again. The weight is going to be decelerating, so it's going to feel lighter for a minute. An easy way to analyze this is to look at, say, an elevator. Whenever you get into an elevator, it starts to go up, you suddenly get this feeling that you're becoming heavier. And then as it continues to go, you seem to go back to your normal weight.
Right.
And then as the elevator goes down, you get this feeling of just feeling lighter. And then as it stabilizes, you start to return to your normal weight.
Right.
And that's just a good way to show that sometimes what you think of as a pound isn't always a pound. It can actually feel heavier or lighter depending on the acceleration behind it.
Right. F equals MA.
F equals MA.
Right.
And I mean, that's the reason that we decided to go with the compressed air here. Is the compressed air manages to counteract that by allowing the same force to be applied throughout the entire range of motion.
Right.
So whenever you start, no matter how fast you're moving, no matter how fast you're accelerating or how slow you're accelerating, you're constantly pulling. If you put that at 20 pounds, it's 20 pounds at the beginning of the range. It's going to be 20 pounds when you get to the end of the range of motion as well, which is wonderful.
Definitely. Well, one of the reasons also we thought we would share with you today our knowledge of pulley systems is that a lot of the local fitness specialty stores are selling the newer models of selectorized equipment that have pulley systems and then have more of a free motion, if you will, for lack of a better word, that allows you to do a lot of different functional based exercises. And if you've watched this program over the last 12 years, I'm a big fan of functional movement patterns. And I like the new things that are being developed and are out there for sale right now at your local specialty fitness stores. If you happen to have the opportunity to use one, give it a shot, because they're totally different now, the new Selectorized machines, compared to the ones 5 years ago, which I was not a fan of them, because you can only typically do, say, a set number of exercises, 20 exercises, and one plane of movement. That it was a total waste of money. I don't think it's a waste of money anymore, because you've got a lot of different functional movement patterns that you can do with these new Selectorized free motion exercise machines. So this functional training that we have, we can do probably 100 plus, maybe 200 exercises if we wanted to. And we've been getting really good results with a lot of the athletes that we work with, as well as the lay population, people that, 85-year-old person that needs a little bit more rotational strength. So we've used tubing for the last several years, and we thought we'd take the next step up and purchase this baby and see what we could really do. And I think it's really proven to be
great so far.
It's worked great. So right now we're going to kind of give you some examples of some things that you can do with a pulley system, right? Not necessarily just using, say, a Kaiser functional trainer, but any type of a pulley system. Okay? So let's start off with some of the ground-based exercises.
Okay.
Let's talk about how this one works, for example, and how the arms work, how they go up and down.
All right. For our machine, it's really simple. This has just, they come down they're at an angle slightly, but you can come down, you can choose where you want to set them. There's a variety of settings, high or low. And if you want to adjust your weight, we have a simple button. Minus allows air to come out for our compressed air. The plus button, if it's plugged into our air compressor here, we can adjust weight and bring the weight up.
And that's one of the things we have to do if we need to add weight, or at least more weight that's not already in the compressor. We have to turn the compressor on. It gets a little loud, but not a big deal. Very quiet when you're using it. Let's talk about some of the ground-based exercises first, from the ground up. So we want to start off with some of the different squat patterns and some of the different lunge patterns.
Absolutely.
And give people kind of an idea of what they could do. A lot of the different free motion exercise pulley systems have arms that maybe come down, maybe they go in. They're all a little bit different. Again, we like the Kaiser because it's compressed air.
Yeah. The first one I'm going to show you is a standard squat. So we're going to bring the arms down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and just do these by grabbing my weights, or grabbing my handles here. I'm going to pull them up just to my shoulders, almost like if I was holding a bar behind my shoulders for like a squat bar. The handles are going back behind my arms. I'm up, my chest is going to be up. Now, the thing about the Kaiser is that, because it will pull you back slightly, so your balance is going to be slightly different. You're almost going to have you're going to feel like you're leaning forward a little bit.
Right.
But other than that, it's going to be the exact same motion. You're going to drive through your heels as you come down and up. And up. You scoot back if you need. Try and get a little more of a true squat motion.
Right. And you can even jump in this position too.
And you can jump in this position, absolutely.
Totally different than a weight stack. A weight stack
really
is going
is.
to have kind of a drag on it.
It absolutely does. And another thing that's really neat about these machines is that even if you're doing a squat like this, say you're someone who has trouble getting through the whole range of motion, with this machine, you can actually adjust, hold these up above your head, so as you come down, it will aid you getting back up. So it's assisting your motion. It's taking some of the weight off of my legs and helping me to get through the full range of motion that I normally wouldn't be able to do.
That's cool.
Yep.
I like that. What about the different lunge patterns that you can do? I know there are tons of them. We don't have time today to go through all of them, but let's kind of talk about some of the things that anybody could do with a pulley system, say at their health club, or if they have one of the new Selectorized machines that allows you to do some of these functional patterns.
Absolutely. Some of our lunge patterns, I'm going to bring it down to about right here.
Well, we've got, what, maybe,
We have-
okay, 21.9 pounds of
Pressure on here.
exactly.
Which, and I will tell you, just because of this compressed air, 21.9 pounds on this machine does not feel like 21.9 pounds on the dumbbell.
21.9 pounds on a weight stack Selectorized machine feels like nothing to me, whereas with this, I'm mesmerized.
It's amazing it's amazing how heavy it feels. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step out slightly, and I've got these elevated a little, which is going to help a little bit whenever I make, so I'm going to step. As I step my lunge, I'm going to push out. Now these are going to pull me back, so right now it's going to help a little bit with my lunge step.
Right.
But it's going to be a little bit difficult as I'm pressing out.
But you really have to use your core stabilizers
absolutely.
to press. And I mean, you're using a lot of neutralizers and stabilizers throughout your entire body to do this because the forces are actually pushing you back. So you're having to constantly prevent that deceleration process from kicking in.
I wanted to show how then you can also add them, bring the weights down, and now as opposed to helping me out with the lunge,
right?
Now as I step forward, it's going to be pulling me down while I'm trying to step back. It just the angle itself makes this a really difficult balance exercise because as you step out, it's pulling you down and back at the same time while you're trying to step.
I can see how you kind of
forward.
rock back on your heels a little bit.
Yeah, it's a really different pattern than what you're used to doing.
Definitely. If you're holding dumbbells, the forces, and you've got gravity that's coming down here.
Yeah.
Nothing's really pulling you backwards or sideways or
absolutely
forwards
not.
or whatever.
Mhm.
So again, neurologically speaking, you've got different adaptations taking place.
Oh, absolutely.
Big time. Let's talk about the harness, which I think is really, really cool.
Oh, harness is one of my favorite tools on this machine that we have so far.
Everybody wants to be faster, and I know with our sports-specific conditioning crowd that we have here, all the parents want, oh, my kid needs to be faster, faster, faster. And I hate treadmill training. I think it's a total waste of time.
I will not put an athlete on a treadmill. If I'm training an athlete, I don't even go near treadmills with them. It just, lack of hamstring strength and other reasons that I just do not like them.
But with this is more true, real-life, functional patterns.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm going to get buckled in here with our harness. And this is really easy. You have a clip. Our handle comes right off. And you can clip it right into the belt. Depending on what you're going to do, you may just want one. You may want both of them on either side. Or may even just want to put one on in the back. So depends on what we're going to do as to where you're going to clip them on.
Let's give people a couple of different examples of
All right.
what we got going.
So I think our first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to demonstrate just some squat jumps.
Okay.
So I'm going to clip up to both sides.
All right.
Actually, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and adjust it and put them all the way down. All the way down to the bottom. And attach my harness. We got it on both sides here. So it's coming up on both sides of my body. It's going to pull me down evenly. And now, this is absolutely wonderful for athletes because it's really going to teach you explosiveness. You're going to have this constant weight that's pulling down. Basically, I've got 20 pounds on each side of my body right now, and it's a constant 20 pounds. So technically, it's like weighing 40 pounds heavier than you are and trying to do these exercises.
Right.
However, because of, again, the forces that are being constant here, it's like trying to move almost 60 pounds is what it's going to feel like.
How is this different from a physics standpoint versus holding 2 20-pound dumbbells?
Well, the difference is basically that, just like I was talking about earlier with the acceleration, as I move with those dumbbells, they're accelerating with me. The momentum is going up, so they're going to be getting heavier or lighter depending on how I'm accelerating.
Right.
Whereas this is constantly going to be 20 pounds on each side of my body that's pulling down on me.
Right.
So it adds a different feel, and it's going to definitely add a different element and an added level of explosiveness as I'm using this machine.
Excellent. All right, here we go.
So I'm going to go ahead and go down. And I like to let my athletes use their arms because I want them to use their arms when they jump. So I'm going to demonstrate it by using my arms. We're going to come down, and I'm just going to jump up and try and land. Down, up, and try and land. And as you can see, it pulls you back a little bit, so sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but go there. And if you want them to do them rapid fire, that's another one. So rather than trying to stick your landing and work on I like to work on the deceleration sometimes and have them stick their landing, but if you just want them to rip them off, then you can go one right into another. Just like that. So
let's go ahead and show what we can do with the
I've got this.
The single one, some of the crossover patterns.
Yeah. Crossover patterns have become, since we've gotten this, one of my favorites. I like to do them low a little bit. Basically, it just has to do with the space that we have, is why I like to bring them low so that they're coming out here instead of trying to come back into the corner of this.
Right.
So I'll start it low a lot of times. I've just got it on one side of my body, hooked on over here, and what I'm going to do basically is simulate a cutting pattern that someone would do in a sport. So if you're running, you're starting here, if you're running in a sport, as you get here to come to cut, you're going to plant and drive off this leg, come back, and I'm going to plant and drive off of this leg too. This one is really working on that cut because you've got this weight pulling against you and you have to really drive to get out of there. The other side is really going to be great for working on deceleration mechanics because you have to decelerate, accelerate from either side. This is just a great exercise to work on the actual mechanics of the cutting motion for any type of athlete. So I'm going to start here.
When we typically have our athletes use this, we'll do it for time, say 20 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever time we want to plug into the equation depending on what our goals are for that particular training session.
Yeah, and however I want, I may have them do it for 20 seconds, take 20-second break to switch to the other side, and then go again for 20 seconds over there.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. Anything else you want to show with the demonstrate today with the harness?
I think that's good for now.
Okay, great. We've got a lot to review. Core rotational movements are really great using most pulley systems, especially the Kaiser Functional Trainer. Again, what's cool about this, if you want to hold this, Jesse, is that you can, again, you can change the angle. Every time you make a pin change, it's changing the force, it's changing the exercise. So you've got an infinite number of positions you can put it in. If you want to go from high to low, low to high, if you want a pure horizontal movement, you can do chopping patterns, you can do single arm patterns, you can do jump, rotational patterns with either one arm or two arms. You kind of get the idea. So if I wanted to do, say, like a single arm rotational chop from high to low, where I'm pivoting, I'm going to come down like so. So I'm going to reach up high and come across my body and pivot and turn. You can use two arms if I want. If I wanted to do really explosive ones where I have to jump and then pivot and then jump back, so it really allows you a lot of different variety and opportunity to create whatever type of a training environment you want.
Well, and the fact that it can go from high to low means that it can get a multitude of different athletes. It can get someone your height who's 6'1" versus someone who, for me, I'm only 5'6". I don't need something that can go that high.
Sure.
I can move it down and do the exact same exercise for someone who's my height.
Right.
And it's really easy to adjust,
Right.
which is great.
We have a lot of baseball players that we work with here at Body Symmetry, and I really like it for some of the different swing mechanics where you're working on your rotational speed. Your bat speed is so important with baseball. It actually allows you to replicate the same essential mechanics that you would use in your swing. So, that's an advantage that you can't get with using a bat. A bat is totally different than using compressed air. And we talked about the physics, so the strength gains are phenomenal in comparison. It really allows your rotational athletes to make gains that they wouldn't make without this type of a training apparatus.
And the fact that the angle of the force now, rather than being straight up from the floor like a free weight would be, the angle of your force is now coming from straight behind you, which is really going to work all those muscles that they need for the bat in a way that there would be absolutely no way to work if there wasn't something right there on that level.
And again, a weight stack is going to be definitely different.
It is.
Because the force is going to change. So if I wanted to do something from the ground up, chopping what I would call reverse wood chop, you can do that easily from the ground up. I'm getting a tremendous load on my right hip and my right hamstring. And as I transfer the weight up, when my obliques are really cooking, again, I can do one arm or two arms. So discus throwers, shot putters, all kinds of application for those particular athletes. You know, volleyball players that have to maybe come down low and dig a ball out of the dirt. You've got baseball players that have to make an explosive move to the right or to the left, really load here, make a move, and turn and rotate and fire the ball.
Any kind of athlete is going to need those kind of motions. So there's no sport that you're not going to need your core for. There's no sport that you're not going to need your legs for. So
Exactly. One of the cool things about this, it allows you to do a really explosive push-pull pattern. And I'll let you demonstrate that, Jesse, since you're 10 times stronger than me. Go ahead. This is a push-pull. It's not only a back exercise or a chest exercise, but it's really a great rotational movement pattern for your torso. So you can see he's having to really stabilize through his hips. He's got a good base of support with his feet, and you can change the speed. So let's see, you really explode now, Jesse. So now you're really cooking. But it's almost like it's replicating, right? You got your cardio going?
absolutely.
It's almost like replicating, you know, certain aspects of sprint mechanics too.
It really is. With you get that. I mean, when you run, you got to really get your arms going back and forth.
Right.
Here, you got to drive that elbow back just like you would when you're sprinting. It's
Just like you would
great.
when you're sprinting. So people doing a bench press, which is a great bodybuilding exercise, great, you know, for power lifters, but not really great for most other athletes. I would say this allows you to replicate, you know, again, the same patterns we were just talking about.
Your core is twisting just like you would. Your arms are really driving back when you bring that back.
Doesn't twist on a bench very well.
Absolutely does not
Yeah.
twist on a bench.
You're locked solid, nice and stable. You know, I think unfortunately too many football coaches place way too much emphasis on the bench press, and it's really a very non-athletic movement pattern.
It is. It's very.
It has certain application, but it's limited in its what you can do.
Yes, it is.
So if I wanted to do, say like a single arm press from a vertical position, if I'm running, I wanted to get maybe like into a sprint position or a running mechanic position, and I can do the same thing without the pulling that we just did,
Yeah.
but it's single arm. All right? Being able to pull, you know, we have a lot of different push-pull patterns that we use here, but pulling, especially your hamstrings and developing the hip complex is so important. And with this, it allows you to do either single arm, single leg patterns. If I wanted to balance, say, on one leg, and I've got the forces pulling me forward, which you can see here, I'm already fighting my balance. It's a big time hamstring glutes. A lot of balance off one leg. And I can even do exercises with, say, two, where I have to reach forward, like I'm having to reach down and grab something, and then bring it back.
You pull it back.
Forcefully. And you can't really do that with...
I'm saying, yeah, that's a pattern you definitely can't do with free
No.
weights, because free weights, again, are going to be going straight down into the floor, whereas this allows you to go out and back, and just it gives you a variety of different angles that you wouldn't be able to hit otherwise.
Right. And if you wanted to do some of the more traditional type exercises like a lat pull down, you could do that with this by standing either kneeling, standing. You can even do alternating patterns. Also, if you wanted to do your old standard internal, external rotation, and you can certainly do that too. Coming here, doing upright. But what's really cool is I like the X patterns that you can do for our throwing athletes, we think that this is one of the best exercises you can do, period.
Absolutely, for your shoulders. And
We only have a couple of minutes left, so Jesse, your shoulders are a lot better than mine.
all right. Now this exercise, we are going to go ahead and lower the weight because most people are not going to be able to handle heavy loads on this one at all.
Right.
We're going to drop down. I'm going to go to 2 knees.
So what Jesse's doing, he's actually placing his arms in a cross pattern like so. And he's going to bring his arms up. You'll see what it looks like here in just a second. And he's going to hold that. So his rotator cuff musculature, his mid-back, lower traps, middle traps, posterior delts, all of his shoulder stabilizers have to work really hard. And this is, you can't really replicate this with any other piece of equipment that I'm aware of.
Well, there's nothing else that's going to be pulling forward on you whenever you go back like that, like this, like a cable machine will be able to do.
We have a lot of the kids in our sports-specific conditioning class do this. Again, we work with so many different young baseball athletes. We feel this is one of the best exercises you can do to not only prevent injury, but hopefully help with working on those shoulder decelerators after you throw a baseball.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's a muscle that really doesn't get worked for, especially for young throwing athletes, nearly as much as it should be. So.
Exactly. We've just got a couple of minutes left. Anything else you'd like to add before we close the program today on pulley and/or cable systems?
You got to know that these machines, especially the way that they are now, allow you to hit muscles and allow you to work different angles that no type of free weight and absolutely no type of standard machine is going to allow you to hit. These machines, it's amazing how far we've come and what we are able to do now. Just by using one piece of equipment like this can do so much, and it really is amazing, especially for athletes who are trying to look for that edge. Using a machine like this can really help take you there.
Absolutely. If you have questions about what we do here at Body Symmetry, feel free to give us a call anytime at 793-9972. Check out our website at bodysymmetry.com. Again, we're working on our big, large, huge video-based website, freefitnessvideos.com, that should be ready, in the coming months. So if you have any questions, again, about what we do, feel free to call anytime. Until next time, I'm your host, Chad Marshak. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
Hey, Quinn and Riley.